to show you how to cast on for your knitting, but I'm going to show you a little bit of interesting techniques that some people don't tell you about. But I'm going to start right from the beginning with my yarn. That's my ball of yarn here, my circular needles here, and I'm going to do a long tail cast on. So when I do that, I always start with a little bit of a tail, 4 or 5 inches, and I measure out how far I want my piece to be. So I'm just going to do a very small little sample, and I want my tail to be 3 times the width of what I'm going to knit. So we'll say this is 1, 2, and 3. It's not how many stitches you cast on, it's the distance of what your piece will be. That's what our cast on tail, and it's the distance it needs to be. All right, so I've got my tail here. I want the tail going over my hand and the ball of yarn towards me. And from the back of my hand, I'm going to wrap the yarn around my index finger, pick up this loop, pull it over the strand, and then pick up this strand. That creates a slip knot. Now I'm going to put the slip knot on the one side of the circular knitting needle, and I push my loop up so that the straight line of the slip knot is facing me. The back side has a little crisscross. Okay, now when I do that, the orientation of the yarn has flipped, the ball is now away from me, and the tail is towards me like this. So to do a two-tail cast on, I'm going to put my 2 fingers together like an OK sign. My right hand index finger is on top of the stitch so I don't lose it. I take my 3 fingers below and close and hold on to the strands below, but not a death grip, just holding gently. My needle is between my finger and thumb, so I open my finger and thumb. So one strand is on my finger and one strand is on my thumb. So I'm going to, holding on to the stitch, pull my needle down so I got this sort of Y shape or a slingshot. To do a typical two-tail cast on, I touch the cheek of my palm with my needle. I go into this loop that I've now formed on my thumb. I go over and grab from above the strand that's on my finger and come right back through that exact same loop that was on my thumb. I let the loop come off my thumb, and then I insert my thumb right back into the space where my finger is, and I pull back gently with the yarn, making sure that the yarn's touching the needle here but not really tight. It's just gently against the needle. That's a trick. So again, we start here on your cheek, into the loop, grab the strand, and come right back. And that is what we call a two-tail cast on. So as you get going, this should be your rhythm. It's sort of like a swiping, almost like a windshield wiper going back and forth, back and forth. And this hand is just holding on to your yarn. Going into the loop, grab the strand, come right back through the loop. All right, so if you've done this nicely, this yarn will stay light and fluffy. But here's a little technique I want to talk about. With a plied yarn, which is what this is, you can see that when I do this, it's starting to unply. And if I had a lot of stitches, this plied yarn will start to separate on me. So one way that I can work a two-tail cast on so that I put twist into the yarn, because what I'm doing right now in this cast on is I'm taking twist out. I can cast on in the opposite way. So instead of my thumb, which is now in this direction as we started, I'm going to put my thumb the other way. So it's going to go this way. So now what I'll do is I'll go into the center of my hand, sort of pick up this strand, which now means I'm in the loop this way, grab my yarn from above and come up again into this loop. And now my stitches are, I'm going to be putting twist into the yarn, and the stitches are still mounted on my needle correctly, but if you notice, down here, the angle has shifted. The angle of my cast on, which is the knit side, is going from right to left, and now it's going from left to right. So it's going the other direction, and that's really all the difference there is. You wouldn't want to mix these two. You want to do one or the other, but that's the way I like to cast on when I have a plied yarn. And if I've got a lot of stitches that I'm worried that the yarn will start to untwist on me and it will start to look messy, I just cast on in the other direction. Now my tail is getting too short to continue, but that shows you the difference between casting on with singles or a plied yarn. So I hope you enjoyed that. Okay.